you guys have had to listen to some of us young girls share, and I know you guys all love the wisdom from some of our mentor moms. So instead of doing a peer perspective this month, we thought we'd flip it and do a mentor perspective. So Kimberly's going to come up. All right. You have your table?
I'm glad it's here. I got to do a stool. I'm so short.
And is this one on still, Melanie? Yeah, perfect. Okay. Kimberly, this is for you. So, I don't know Kimberly actually all that well, but I do know her daughters. So her daughters babysit for me, and Kimberly has 7 children, and I have had her oldest daughter Amanda babysit for me, and then I had and then I had Emily, and then I had Chrissy, and now sometimes I have Becca come over, who my boys call Becky, and her girls are their favorite babysitters. And I know this is going to sound so silly, but I actually have been insecure a little bit having her daughters come over, because I feel like their mom must be so awesome to have 7 kids, and their house is probably so well run, and they're going to come over to my little house of chaos with my 3 crazy boys, and then it's just going to be like, they're going to be like, oh, well, my mom would do this and this and this. But so anyways, here's my questions for you. You have 7 children. 7 children. I struggle with my 3, right?
At least you can count.
Yeah.
That's good.
So automatically, I have her on a super mom pedestal. I don't know about you guys. So tell us how you do that, and help us relate to you, Kimberly.
Okay. So first, can you guys hear me okay? Well, I sit there and look, I see the opposite. I'm like, well, I must be able to relate to all of you because I have 7 kids, right? I think a part of it is, we were talking the other day, the whole thing of just, when I had 1 child, I had things I was struggling with. And then when I had 3 children, I stopped ironing my husband's clothes. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't iron anymore. And I cried. Can you believe it? And I thought, okay, that's silly. I need to just let that go, and I need to move on. And I think sometimes we stand off from people because we're doing a comparison, or we're comparing ourselves to them, and then we don't open up conversation because we instantly have shut down, thinking we don't measure up. So first of all, you guys, I am probably the most easygoing, so relatable person. I don't know. I love people. I love my family. Love my kids. Okay, I don't exercise. So you're sitting thinking, she's small or whatever. I cannot stand exercising. I have tried. I don't like it. I even okay, the kids are swimming in the swimming pool. I'll go walk laps, right? I get so bored. Okay, maybe you guys need to hike with me or something. I don't know. I love gardening. I love landscaping. I love just kind of being in my yard. So I found a different way to exercise, and I had to give myself permission to do that. So anyways, you can relate to me. I don't do anything fancy or special. This is just how God made me.
How do you use the gifts and abilities that God's given you to serve your family?
I think from the beginning, just really being able to pause. I just kind of felt like every challenge that came, I would just kind of stop and look back and spend time with the Lord and be able to really get to know my kids. And I think that was, and my husband. So as you're asking questions, sorry, you guys, I lost my train of thought. So basically looking at my 3 strengths. Is that what we're looking at?
Yeah, what are your strengths?
So we're looking at my 3 strengths. I think one of them is being able to communicate with my kids. So from a very early age, I just really started connecting with them and really took the time to get to know what their needs were. And I think in doing that and opening up that communication and building that friendship and building that relationship from a young age all the way through, then when they're teenagers and such, you have that relationship established. So one of my strengths would be friendship, communicating with them. Hospitality, I love having people over. I love open door policy. And that's something my husband's not so much like that. He's totally content kind of being back in his office or doing whatever he needs to do. But he has been gracious gracious enough to allow me to have that place of hospitality because he knows it's important to me and to the kids. What would be another strength? I do love to cook. I'm kind of simple about it. I kind of have like simple recipes that I do, and but I do love providing, nutritious meals for the family. I love working on my photo albums. I love building, all those things she was talking about. First, I have to say, you did a fantastic job. I wish this group was here, or, when I was having kids, or I wish I would have went. I think I would have just stayed home thinking, I can do this all on my own. It's fine. Me and the Lord and these little monkeys, it's just, we're fine. But, Tiffany's skit, and then you coming up with what you came up with, oh my gosh, that is so amazing. What a blessing to be able to go, we're all in this boat together. We're all like traveling this journey together. But I went through that whole stage of, I'm going to be a homeschooling mom, and I'm going to make all their clothes, and I'm going to bake bread from scratch. And all right, I did that for a little while. I drove myself crazy. I threw out the sewing machine. I don't sew. It's just not what I do. And that's totally, totally okay. I think it's giving yourself permission to be okay, to find your strengths, walk in those strengths, and kind of not ignore the weaknesses, but we don't have to highlight them. Go ahead.
And was my super mom assessment of you're clean, efficient, perfect house, was that accurate?
Oh yeah, that was so accurate. Okay, Amanda Moore, is my house clean ever? No, seriously. I think what was freeing in that is when I first got married, I really wanted to always have the house clean and everything in order and all of that. And my sister's standards are different than mine, and for some reason, it flows better for her. She can do it. She can pull it together. So usually if my sister came over, it was just like, oh my gosh, an anxiety attack. She's not going to, my house isn't going to be to her standard. And as I was raising my children, I'm going to pull a book out. This is my basket. I haven't pulled anything out of here yet. But probably when my daughter was maybe 7 or 8, Amanda, my firstborn, I started reading this book, Seasons of a Mother's Heart. And at the time, I was living under somebody else's standard. I was like, I've got to homeschool this way. I need to raise my children in the way this book says that I'm supposed to. And then I'm going to have the perfect kids, right? And I had all these rules I was putting on myself. And I started reading this book by Sally Clarkson. Highly recommend it. It is so, so, so good. And the very first chapter, she shares how, here she had just had baby number 4, and they just moved, and the house was crazy, and everything was a mess, and things were piled upon pile, and her kids had certain responsibilities that they were supposed to do, and none of those responsibilities were done. So she's like, I'm going next door, and when I get back, this house better be clean. And her oldest was 8 years old, so that was kind of like a high expectation, right? But anyhow, so she goes next door, she comes back, and none of her kids are where they're supposed to be. No one's in the kitchen doing their chore, no one's picking up the living room the way they're supposed to be. And she's like, in her head, she's going, okay, I am so mad at these kids, and I'm going to give them a lecture upon lecture and let them know I'm in charge and they needed to be getting their stuff done. And all of a sudden she hears this giggling, and she walks towards the giggling, and there's lots of laughter, and her little boy comes up to her and is like, Mom, you gotta come see, Joyce found her toes. So the little baby's like laying on the bed, sticking her toes in her mouth, and all of the 3 older kids are around just laughing. And right then she's like, who cares? Who cares about my house? Who cares about this standard that I've put on myself? Look at this. My children love each other. There's laughter, and let's celebrate the moments. And all of a sudden, and as you read her book, it's all about know your kids, love your kids, know what they need. All of our kids are unique. All of our kids are different. They have different needs. If you tap into what that child needs, then you're being their mom. God gave you a gift to be their mom. Embrace those moments and celebrate those moments. And gosh, your whole message, stop comparing ourselves. Stop thinking we have to live to somebody else's standards. One of the things, I can't even remember the book, but it talked about red light, green light kind of a thing. God has given you intuition as a mom. He's specifically given you your children to raise. And with that intuition, learn to trust it. We have a gut instinct that says, my kid needs me somewhere, or I need to stop what I'm doing and listen and tune in and I've really, really come to a place where I just like, when I hear that, when I feel that gut instinct, I know I need to go. And there's been times, you guys, where the Lord has worked through me in my kids' lives and put me in a specific, it'll be silly, drive past the park right now. Okay, and I'll do it, and I'll be obedient, and one of my children will be there, and there'll be a need there. I didn't know that, but if you listen to that gut instinct, if you follow that intuition that God's given you, then that's where you're going to build that relationship with your kids, be able to be there for your kids. I think that's super important.
So all of that, how do you pick like what you're not going to do? What you're going to say no to?
Okay, and I'll try to be brief because I could go off on this one for a long time too. I think a long time ago, I was at one of the Bible studies with pastor's wife, and she did a whole study on choosing the better part. And there's a whole scripture in that beautiful song, "Lord, help me choose the better part." There are a lot of things that we can do every single solitary day, and people are asking you all the time. So we can't do it all. So you have to learn to pull back and go, okay, Lord, there's all these good things. What is the best thing that I can do right now for my family? What's the better part for us? What's the better part for you? So I think that's a piece of it. And I think a couple of just quick little examples. As you learn to check in with God and check in with your spouse, and when different things come up and be like, hey, so-and-so wants me to do this, what do you think? It's like, I might say yes to everything. I kind of love people and I can do it, right? And I really learned to kind of take things to my husband and say, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? And then sometimes he says, yeah, go for it. That sounds great. And sometimes he's like, no, I think we need to spend some time over here. That's not the best fit for you. I was sharing with you the other day, and I think this is a good example. As I was raising kids, my husband and I got married. We both served in the nursery. I continued on with the kids, and then I started doing Sunday school. I did that for like 10 years. I did all of the Christmas programs, the Easter programs, Mother's Day. I had the kids up there singing. I just was in charge of all that. I loved being with the kids and orchestrating that. And then we moved up here. I was pregnant with baby number 5, and I really felt like the Lord was just like, stop. Just invest in your family, pour into your family, and stop. And I was like, okay. So I really did that. I really poured into that. And then years go by, I don't even know how many, and Mackenzie, my youngest, was 4 years old. And I walked up to the Sunday school class to put her in her 4-year-old class, and there was a little note on the door saying, no Sunday school today, there's no teachers. And right then and there, the Lord said, step back up, it's time. So it was probably like 8 to 10 years where I didn't do anything in regards to serving at church. I was just pouring into my family. And then at that moment, it was the right time. And I answered the call, and I started with the 4-year-olds and moved up, and now I'm teaching 3rd grade. I love it. I love my kids and being with my kids. Always have had a heart for teens, but have never been able to really invest, with the teen group. And this year, Brandon asked me at some point or somewhere it came up that there was a position where I could work with the youth, and I wanted to do that, and it seemed like a good idea. Went home and prayed about it, talked to Jim about it, and he's like, no, I don't think it's the time for you to do that right now. And I'm like, okay. So I didn't even pursue it any further. And in that, as I was praying about it, the Lord's like, if you take a position that you're not supposed to take, then you're taking that away from the person who's supposed to be there. So I can do a lot of things. I could serve in ministry. I could work at the church. I could do all kinds of things. And it was really cool that a great example there was, within a few months, Dawn Winch and her husband Jeff stepped up to that role. So Dawn took the role, and I'm like, okay, Lord, thank you so much that I was obedient to what you told me so that Dawn could, because Dawn is amazing. So anyhow, I think it's just kind of with everything that we're given, whether it's helping a neighbor, serving at church, going to school and dropping stuff off for our kids, it's constantly being mindful of the Lord and listening to him as he leads you.
Okay, last one, and we only have like a minute for this one, but you've been doing motherhood for a really long time. Like, what would be your number one takeaway or tip for us young moms?
As you're going through something, just constantly go, I have to pull up my stuff out of my basket. I'm going to use that for my 1 minute. So, the Bible, everything is in here. So if you're struggling with joy, it's in here. If you're struggling with contentment, it's in here. If you're struggling with frustrations, it's in there. There's a scripture and concordances and everything else to get you where you need to go. Choose a few verses that are totally you, that minister to your spirit, so that when stuff comes up, you can call upon those scriptures and have them. As you're going through stuff, find good books. Read books. I love everything by Sally Clarkson. Hospitality, this is a wonderful book, Open Heart, Open Home. If we're so worried about what our home looks like, we miss the opportunity to love the people that show up at our door. So they don't care. Who cares what your house looks like? Do you guys care what somebody else's house looks like? We don't. So that's the whole thing there. Sally Clarkson wrote a new book. This is so awesome. Life-Giving Home. So I just started this one. I have a bunch of other books now. You guys can look at it. M&Ms. This is the answer to everything, you guys. Weather. Is that a good tip? Big bag, huh? Okay, it took me so long to give myself permission to be able to say it's okay to have a huge bag of M&Ms in my house.
Because she's super healthy.
I am so healthy. You just know it. So M&Ms, so you guys, potty training,
Medicine. I call them medicine.
I know, seriously.
It's a medicine.
Here you go. Studying for a test, getting through homework, you name it, a girls' night out, at the family night when you're watching movies, a bag of popcorn with a handful of M&Ms thrown in it. M&Ms seem to solve about everything in my household. So it's good. As your kids are getting older, a cup of tea. It is so funny. It's hard for me, you guys, to slow down. I am like the one, oh, you fell down? No big deal. Brush it off. Let's keep going. Oh, you're sick? No big deal. Let's keep going. It was really hard on my husband when he had a kidney stone because I didn't believe him. I'm like, you're fine. But anyways, so to give, again, stop for a second, offer that cup of tea. If you have time, check in with your kids. Even, my 8-year-old, she's my one who from a very young age, oh, Mom, can I have a cup of tea? Now she wants coffee. So I do that warm milk. And I gave myself permission to give at the time she was like 4, coffee. You guys, that's crazy, right? But it's just warm milk, a little splash of the coffee, and she thinks she's having coffee. But just little things like that where you can nurture and comfort. And I think that that's my advice.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks.
Yeah. And then over here.
Yeah.